Well, hello everyone, and welcome back to Soul Whispers Coming Home to You. This is episode 22. There's a sentence living somewhere in your chest right now that has not been spoken. You know the one, the boundary you've been rehearsing in your head 100 times and swallowed every single time the moment arrived. Today, we're going to find it, and we're going to understand why it keeps not being said. And we're going to give your nervous system what it needs to finally say it. First, let's take a moment to acknowledge something precious that we often take for granted, our breath. So together, let's take one slow, deep breath in through your nose and a nice, long exhale through your mouth. Let whatever you are carrying soften just slightly, because right now, this is your time. My name is Susan, and I'm a certified somatic trauma-informed coach, and the rest of my credentials are in the show notes below. I came to this work through my own healing journey, one that included nearly 4 decades in a relationship that asked more of me than it ever gave back, and a diagnosis of rheumatoid arthritis at the age of 27 that finally made me stop and listen. What I discovered changed everything. The body is not working against us. It is speaking for us. And when we give the nervous system the safety and the language and the tools it has been waiting for, healing becomes possible in ways that genuinely may surprise you. I'm here because my deepest wish is to help the person I used to be, and anyone whose body that has been speaking in symptoms while the mind keeps pushing through. If that's you in any shape or form, I'm here to give you the language, the tools, and the reminder that the power to heal has always been inside you. And that is what Soul Whispers Coming Home to You is all about. Today, we talk about the boundary you keep not saying, the one that lives in your chest as a permanent resident, the no that comes out as yes before you have even had a chance to feel what is true. This is one of the most requested topics since this series began, and I've been saving it for exactly the right moment. A few days ago, a total solar eclipse moved through Leo, the sign of authentic self-expression, courage, and the right to be fully and unapologetically seen. We are still inside that eclipse energy, and there is no more potent moment to begin speaking what has been held. I used to think I did not have boundaries because I was just a kind person, that saying yes to everything was an expression of my love, that the discomfort I felt, that slow building tightness in your chest when you agree to something you don't want to do, the exhaustion that arrives when no one seems to notice how much you're giving and giving and giving, well, I thought that was just the cost of loving people. It took me a really long time to understand that what I was doing was not kindness. It was actually survival. The yes that came out automatically before I had consulted my own body about what was true was not generosity. It was the Fawn response in action. The automatic self-erasure of a nervous system that had learned through years of living in an unpredictable environment that having needs was not always safe, and that expressing a preference could sometimes cost something, and that the boundary, if I spoke it, could sometimes lead to feeling punished. The boundary is not the problem. The belief that you will not survive the consequences of saying it, well, that's the problem. And that belief was installed by very specific experiences in a very specific relationship at a time when it was probably accurate to do that. The work is not to force yourself to say the boundary. The work is to help your nervous system understand that the consequences it's bracing for are no longer the ones that are coming. The first time I said no, and I meant it, my hands were shaking, but not just because my nervous system was bracing. It was bracing because there were repercussions. I mean, honestly, it did not go smoothly. There was pushback. There was guilt placed at my feet like a gift I was supposed to accept. And the guilt worked at first. And I wanted to take the no back immediately to fix the atmosphere, to make everything comfortable again, because I'm very empathic too. So I can feel that other person when they're sad, upset, or disappointed, and I just want to fix that. So I had to step out of that comfort zone as well. That pull to reverse was definitely overwhelming. So I came up with a rule. I allowed myself to say no, right? But I had to wait 24 hours. And that was it. Wait 24 hours before I could change my mind. Just one day of holding the no before I was permitted to revisit it. And what I discovered almost every single time was that after 24 hours, the urgency had passed. The sky did not fall. The guilt had quieted down, and I felt something I had never quite felt before. Quiet, unfamiliar steadiness of someone who had said what was true and survived it. I started small, boundaries in low-stake situations first, because the muscle had never been used and it needed to be built very carefully. And as I felt stronger in the smaller moments, I began to set boundaries in the relationship that had put my entire nervous system on permanent guard. That was when things got a lot harder. There were outbursts. There was the word selfish thrown in my face, used like a weapon, designed to make me feel that having a need of my own was a character failure. The guilt was no longer subtle. It was strategic. But you know what? I held the boundary. And I held it by remembering one thing above everything else. I do not need to explain my no. No is a complete sentence. I literally had to write those words on my mirror. No is a complete sentence to continue to remind myself. I'm not required to justify, defend, or perform remorse for the simple act of honoring what's true for me. And after 24 hours every single time, I was okay. I was still standing. I was still me. And their opinion of me may not have changed, but I was no longer being held hostage by the fear of it. That was the moment I understood what a boundary actually is. It's not a wall. It's not an act of war. It's just the place where I end and someone else begins. And it's my right to stand there. Now, the solar eclipse in Leo on August 12th sits 4 days behind us, and its energy is still fully active. Solar eclipses are a reset point, accelerated beginnings that carry their momentum for months. This particular eclipse at 20 degrees Leo brings a direct invitation to strip away the performed version of yourself and to step into something more honest. Astrologers describe it as the moment where old patterns of self-sacrifice and blurred boundaries are most strongly tested, and where the reset comes through reclaiming what actually keeps you strong. This is not a coincidence. This is the universe timing your work. The boundary you've been holding back has its own eclipse energy behind it, supporting it right now. And as I said, a boundary is not a wall. It is not aggression or selfishness or an act of cruelty toward the people on the other side of it. A boundary is simply an honest expression of what is and is not okay for you. It is the place where yourself ends and someone else begins. And in a healthy nervous system, in a safe relational environment, boundaries are not that difficult. They are just true things that get spoken. But in a nervous system that learned through punishment or silent treatments, withdrawal, rage, or the specific atmosphere of a relationship where your needs were consistently treated as inconvenient, that expressing what is not okay for you has consequences. The boundary becomes something else entirely. It becomes what feels like a threat and something the body braces against even before it is spoken. The Fawn response, the fourth survival strategy alongside fight, flight, and freeze, is the one most relevant to boundaries. Fawn is the automatic move toward appeasement, accommodation, and ignoring your own needs in the presence of a perceived threat. The yes before the body has been consulted. The apology before anyone even asked for one. The shrinking that happens when a preference needs to be expressed. These are not personality traits. They are nervous system responses, and they were learned in environments where they kept the person safe. The people pleaser is not a weak person. They are almost always one of the most sensitive, most perceptive, and relationally attuned people in the room. They learn to monitor the emotional weather of their environment with extraordinary precision. And they learn that adjusting themselves in response to that weather kept the temperature manageable. The problem is not the skill. The problem is that it was never supposed to be permanent. In internal family systems, the part that prevents the boundary, it's almost always the manager, like a protector doing its very best to keep the system safe from the consequences it learned to associate with self-expression. And underneath that manager, almost always, is an exile who experienced exactly what happened when the boundary was spoken in the original unsafe environment. The exile's memory is the manager's fuel, and the manager will not stand down until the exile has been seen, and until the nervous system has enough evidence from the present that the old consequences are no longer the ones on offer. The path to the boundary is not through willpower. It's through gradual, compassionate, evidence-based process of teaching the nervous system that this moment is different from the one that it has been bracing for. So let's do a little somatic practice before we go into the meditation. I want to help you locate the specific boundary you're working with today, not as a concept, but as a physical experience. The boundary that has not been said always has a body location. So, if you would and you're able to, please close your eyes and take 2 slow, deep breaths in through your nose and a longer exhale through your mouth. Letting your shoulders drop and just feeling into your body, connecting with you. And bring to mind the situation or relationship where the boundary most needs to be spoken. The specific thing that keeps not being said. Now, I'd like you to feel what's happening in your body when you imagine saying whatever you need to say that is that boundary. Notice what happens after you say that in your mind. Just the moment of imagining speaking it. Notice the response your body's giving you. Perhaps you feel trembling or fear or bracing. Notice where it is in your body. Do you feel it in your chest or your throat or your belly or even your jaw? Wherever you feel that heat or that fear or that bracing, I'd like you to place your hand there and breathe into that place with your hand on that area 3 times. And acknowledge it and say out loud or silently to whatever is being held there, I know you are trying to protect me. And I'm showing you that this time it's safe to let me speak. Now stay with this as we go into the meditation in just a few moments. But first, I want to acknowledge that there is a version of you on the other side of this boundary. Not a dramatically different person, just a version of you with a little more room in your chest, a little more energy available, because it is no longer being spent on the chronic effort of suppressing what's true. A little more self-respect because you've begun to prove to yourself that your needs are worth speaking. The Leo eclipse asks us to stop performing the version of ourselves that is acceptable and to begin expressing the version that's true and actual. And I want to say something tender about that. The version of you that learned to be acceptable rather than actual and true was not wrong. That version was protecting you in the only way available. The performance was not weakness, it was intelligence. But now you're building something different, and that something requires the truth of you, including the parts that have needs, that have limits, that have things that are and are not okay. The boundary is not the end of love. In most cases, it is the beginning of the only kind of love that is actually sustainable, the kind that includes all of you. God, the universe and source, the intelligence that placed the capacity for self-knowledge inside every human nervous system, that wired us to know our own limits precisely so that we could honor them. That has been waiting patiently while you learned what you needed to learn about what happens when you don't. That intelligence is in this eclipse energy, in this season, and in this moment. The boundary you keep not saying is ready. And I believe you are also ready. So let's begin your guided meditation. Find a comfortable position, and if you're able to, put both feet flat on the floor and feel the specific texture of the ground or the grass or the floor beneath your feet. Feel the solidity of it, and have your hands open in your lap with your palms facing upward. And then let your eyes close softly. Take one slow breath in through your nose and a nice, long, deep exhale through your mouth. Let your shoulders drop. Let your jaw soften. Let your whole body begin to settle into the space it occupies. You're allowed to be here, fully and without editing anything. Now take 2 more deep, slow breaths and exhale a little more complete. And with every breath out, feel yourself arriving more fully into this moment, this specific moment in your body, which is safe right now. Now bring your awareness gently to the place in your body where a boundary has been living, one that you haven't acknowledged or allowed to come out. Is it in your chest or your throat or your belly or your jaw? Notice wherever you have found it and place your hand there and simply acknowledge it. I know what you have been carrying. I know how long you've been holding this. And tonight, we're going to show you something different. Now begin to let an image form in your mind's eye that represents the old pattern, the one with the automatic yes, the swallowed boundary, the self that shrank to keep the peace. Let whatever image arise naturally. Begin to notice the qualities, how close it is to you, how large it feels. Notice if there are any colors. Does it have sound or weight? Now I'd like you to deliberately change one quality. Go ahead and push the image further away from you. See it in your mind's eye and feel it in your body as it begins to move 10 feet away, 20 feet, further and further, getting smaller and smaller as you watch it begin to recede until it is small and distant. And go ahead and drain the color from it. If there's any color, let it fade to gray. Belonging to a version of you that was doing the best she could with what she had, and now is no longer required. Notice that image is so far away now. And also notice what's happening in your body as that image shrinks and fades away. Notice if there's even a small shift, because that's real. Even 1 degree of release is the beginning of shifting. Now, in the space that is opened, begin to construct a new image. The version of you who has learned to hold the boundary. Take your time and build her with great detail. You are the creator of your universe. See her posture first. How does she stand or sit? Notice the spine. There's a quality of uprightness there that does not feel rigid, but it feels real. She is taking up her actual space, not performing confidence, just occupying her body with the ease of someone who's genuinely at home in her body. Now look at her face. What is her expression showing? Not defiant, not apologetic. Notice it's clear and present. It's the face of someone who knows what is true for her and does not require anyone else to agree. And breathe. Now hear her voice when she speaks the boundary, when the no comes out, simple and complete. What does it sound like? Notice the quality of it, the steadiness, the warmth that does not require her to diminish the truth of what she's saying. Hear it clearly. Let it land in your body as a sound you recognize. And now feel what she feels from the inside, not from outside watching. Go ahead and step into her and see through her eyes, not looking at her, but as if you are looking out from your own eyes. Feel the ground beneath her feet, the steadiness in her chest, the specific physical sensation of having said what is true and remaining in the room with it. You may feel a little trembling, but beneath that, there's something much steadier, something that does not move. And that is the boundary being held. And breathe. Now bring to mind the situation where the boundary most needs to be spoken. Even bring to mind the specific person or the specific moment. I'd like you to set the scene using all your senses, seeing the space around you, feeling the atmosphere. Notice any sounds, any smells. Let it be as real as you can make it. And now, as that version of you who has learned to hold what is true, let the boundary arrive that you need to speak. Not forced, not performed, just honest, simple, and complete. Feel it leave your body with the breath as you speak it. And feel the space in your chest after it has been spoken. Perhaps an unfamiliar lightness of something true, finally giving air to breathe. Or the slight trembling beneath it, that steady, unmoving thing. And breathe. Whatever arises in the scene, whatever the response is, feel your feet on the ground, on the floor. You're still here. You're still whole. The no and the boundary you spoke did not destroy anything worth keeping. And you're still you. In fact, you're more you than you were before you spoke. Now go ahead and run it one more time, using all your senses, the scene, the breath, the boundary spoken simply, and the steadiness of your body after you speak your boundary. And as you're seeing this and creating this whole scene in your mind, press your thumb and forefinger together gently on your dominant hand. And feel the pressure between your thumb and forefinger as you do press them together. This is going to be your anchor going forward. The physical signal that will call this version of you forward whenever you need her. In the moment before the boundary needs to be spoken, you can put your thumb and forefinger together on your dominant hand and feel this scene and this moment come into your body. The moment when the old yes wants to form before the body has been consulted. And you will breathe into this version of you one final time. Make the image bright and close and colorful and vivid. She's not a future self. She's already here in your body, in your breath, in the 24 hours that taught you that no one can take your no away from you. Now speak this quietly into existence through the intelligence within you, to God, to the universe, to Source. I am learning that my no is as sacred as my yes. That the boundary is not the end of love, but the beginning of a more honest version of it. I am allowed to stand exactly where I end, and someone else begins. And I will always remember where that is. and breathe. Now release the anchor and take one final breath all the way in and a long exhale out, letting your body carry this forward. And when you're ready, come back to the present moment and open your eyes. The boundary you keep not saying. Today, you found it in your body. You met the part that's been holding it back. You saw what lives underneath that part, and you future-paced yourself, speaking it with safety. That's a full session's work, so please be gentle with yourself for the rest of the day. If the meditation brought up something that feels larger than one episode can hold, please feel free to reach out. The link is in my show notes below. And next week, we will be doing a new series that we'll be adding to the other series I already have, which is going to be called The Language of Healing. And if you know someone sitting with a question right now, please send them this video. If today illuminated why boundary keeps not being said, this work does go much deeper in one-to-one sessions, which I do offer. The Fawn response, the nervous system's relationship with no, and the specific fear that lives beneath the boundary you most need to speak. I hope you remember that the boundary you have not been saying has been waiting long enough. So I hope today you're ready to give it a voice. Before you go, I hope you'll be kind enough to leave a comment, give a thumbs up, and please share with someone who needs to hear about boundaries today and how important they are in your life. And if you haven't subscribed already, I hope you do. And I look forward to talking with you again next week. Remember, you are allowed to take up space. Love and hugs.